Welcome back to another episode of Coaching with the Bible. This is episode 171. That's right, 171, season 4, episode 11. Portion of the week is known as Vayigash, the second to last in the book of Genesis. And our topic this week is on guarantees. Today in the Hebrew calendar is the 10th day of Tevet, 10th day of this month. The month following the month of the holiday of Hanukkah is a fast day. And we are fasting in commemoration of the destruction of the temple many years ago. A particular aspect of it is the siege that was laid to the city of Jerusalem, which is a big deal. People maybe minimize the siege, but the reality of the fact is that that was sort of stage one. And stage one, what ultimately was a process leading towards the destruction, was sort of indicative or symbolic of the fact that the people at the time were in a place and in a space where this was happening. If you weren't sure about an impending destruction of the temple and the destruction of the settlement of the people of Israel in the land of Israel at the time, then the siege of the city by a foe, by an enemy, would be a great indicator of what's impending and what's coming. That's today. Nothing in life is guaranteed. That is what we're always told, except for, death and taxes. And the famous quote from Clint Eastwood is, if you want a guarantee, then go buy a toaster. The idea being that nothing in life is guaranteed, and we really can't be sure or certain of anything definitively happening. And we certainly can't be sure that even if on our say-so, that it's 100% going to be the case. We can do our best. We can put out our best effort. We can put ourselves in a position to succeed. We can't guarantee that moment. Famous guarantees in history. 1994, the New York Rangers were in the playoffs against the New Jersey Devils. That was a heated rivalry back in the day. I imagine it still is today, although I don't really follow it as much as I did then. The Rangers were good. The Devils were good. It was a very tough playoff series, and the Rangers were down in the series 3-2, going on the road, quote unquote, to New Jersey to play the Devils for Game 6. The captain of the team, Mark Messier, made a very famous sports guarantee, guaranteed that the Rangers would win that night and that they would go home and take Game 7. They did win Game 6. It was plastered all over the papers. I can remember the image in the New York Post, "We'll win tonight" was the quote. They did win that night. They did win Game 7. They did go on to win the championship, the Stanley Cup that year. The only time in maybe the last 80-something years that they won. And it was a big deal. The guarantee itself was a big deal. The bigger deal was that it came through. And even the biggest deal on top of that is that the level of his own personal play that night puts that guarantee into the lore of sport. But it's not something that people generally do, and it's not something that's necessarily recommended to do. When I'm working with a client, let's say, and they want to guarantee results, I'm like, guarantee results. I can guarantee if you do the work, there's an opportunity for the results. I can guarantee that you'll do the work, or I can guarantee I can do the work and put you in a position to succeed. But you can't guarantee your success, especially when it relies on other people. Mark Messier's guarantee that night was a risk. And that's a lot of the reason why people don't make guarantees, because there's risk, or because it's completely out of their control, or because the other possibilities, so many of them that exist, make it sort of, on some level, ridiculous to guarantee anything. And so we can put measures and metrics, low, medium, high, for success, and we can push ourselves to do the work. We can't guarantee the result. I say, like in fundraising, where I'm spending still a lot of much of my time at work. In fundraising, you can only do your best in terms of the space of being a fundraiser, of putting yourself in a position to make a great ask, making that great ask. But it still relies on the donor to to actually agree or to make the donation. So you can't guarantee that. There's so many stories of failure, of lack of success in asks for donations. And so we don't guarantee anything. Nothing's a given. The truth is, even with that silly quote from Clint Eastwood, toast isn't a given either. You could burn it, you could undercook it, you could blow the house, electricity. So nothing's guaranteed there either. The reason I bring up this sense of guarantees is because there's an enormous one that takes place at the end of last week's portion, leading into this week's portion, and it revolves around the character known as Judah, the fourth of the sons of the 12 tribes, who really steps up in the second half of the book of Genesis. He's not necessarily viewed as we call a feature player. He's not Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob. He's not even Joseph, who is very much at the center of these last portions. But maybe he's next. And most famously, in last week's portion, guaranteeing the safety or security of his youngest brother, the brother known as Benjamin. Not sure there's another way to term that. When Jacob refuses to send Benjamin down, the initial attempt is by Reuben, and Reuben offers his two sons. If I don't bring him back, then you can have my two sons. He put my two sons to death. It's a wild attempt. When Judah comes along and he says that I will guarantee him, so Jacob accepts that. And so their commentaries, are replete with all kinds of comments as to what exactly did Judah mean when he said that. But the reality of it is simply that what's important is that Jacob accepted it. Something about that moved Jacob to say, okay, let's go. Put a plan together, send Benjamin down with them. And Judah puts himself at great risk. So whatever's going to happen is on him forever. It's a massive undertaking, here's the key word, responsibility. That's at the core of guarantee. And there's no way for sure, in truth, that he could guarantee anything. But Jacob accepts it. And Judah owns it. That's the other part of the guarantee, owning it. You could say it, but it's more than just saying it. You have to have the responsibility to do whatever it takes to fulfill it, and you have to own it if it doesn't happen. And if it does happen, you have the onus of it on you. And so I imagine that among all the other things that are going on in the time in Egypt, that when it is the case that Benjamin comes down with them and they meet the viceroy, they meet Joseph in guise and they don't recognize him and they have this whole experience with him and he sends them on their merry way, that probably Judah felt a massive amount of relief at that point because he had succeeded. He'd made the guarantee. To put it in the same context, he was Messiah before Messiah. He had put the guarantee out there before there was even a thing to do, and it had come through until it didn't. Until it was clear that they had been set up, that they had their money again in their backpacks, and that Benjamin had the goblet in his. And at that moment, the truth is, from let's say a technical standpoint, Judah has an out. I guaranteed Benjamin's return, he could say, but that was reliant on him not doing something illegal, irresponsible, immoral, inappropriate, and stealing the goblet of the viceroy would fall into those categories. Judah has an out, at least on a technical level. What's clear is that he didn't take that responsibility, he didn't set that guarantee at purely on a technical level. This was not guaranteeing a loan. This was guaranteeing a life. And so it's a different level of ownership, onus, and responsibility that Judah has taken upon himself. It's what ultimately warrants Judah being the tribe of kings. That's what leaders do. That's what the expectation can be of leadership. The kings, certainly the kings of our people. And so we're going to appreciate that what Jacob appreciated in the offer of guaranteeing was very high level. What's also true on the other end of that is that when Joseph hears it from Judah, that he guaranteed the safety, security, and the return of Benjamin, that was everything he needed to hear to push him to reveal himself to his brothers. In other words, that was going to come anyway. It seems like it was sort of heading down that direction. It's no surprise ultimately that he reveals himself. The only surprise is that they're surprised. But what is the trigger, right? What is it that pushes Joseph over the edge? It is hearing not just about the idea that there was another brother that had been killed that the father mourned. No, it's the guarantee that Judah took upon himself for a brother, and I'll use the term, for a brother from another mother. For Benjamin, the youngest brother, the youngest son, the son of the mother who had passed away, Rachel, and he took responsibility, he took ownership, he bore the onus of the brother Benjamin's life, and then Joseph reveals himself. And so it's not like how we think about a guarantee for money in the modern world. That's not exactly how to think about it. Rabbi Avigdor Nebenzahl, in his book on his talks on the portions of the week, discusses at a greater level what does it mean to be a guarantor of a loan. It doesn't mean that if person X can't pay, that person B pays instead. No, it means that effectively going into the loan from the first moment, that the second person is in fact the first person. Let me give it an example. Let's say I go to the bank and I want a mortgage. I want to take out a mortgage for $500,000 to buy a home. And they say to me, look, we'll give you the loan. We need someone to guarantee the loan. And so my friend Mike guarantees the loan, made up. What does it mean that he guaranteed the loan? So on a technical level, it means that if I can't pay, he pays. From a deeper level, what it means is that from the moment he guarantees it, he's in on it and he's responsible for it at every level, every fiber of his being to make sure that every dollar of that loan is paid back. They're intertwined, is the better way to think about it. And that's the case with Benjamin and Judah. From the moment that Judah utters those words that he is responsible for his brother, their lives are intertwined forever. So it's no coincidence then that Judah and Benjamin, when the land ultimately is settled by the people of Israel, that they are together in the land. There's an intertwining of the souls and the spirits of the personalities of the people such that they become one. You cannot unravel them. You cannot untie them. You cannot separate them. That's what it means that he is the guarantor for his brother. That's what it means that he's responsible for his brother. Somewhere in one of the Rabbi Sachs' works, he mentions that sort of the end of the book of Genesis is a response to the beginning of the book of Genesis. And what I mean by that is that at the beginning of the book of Genesis, when Cain is asked about his brother Abel, he asks, am I my brother's keeper? And the end of the book of Genesis implies and tells us straight out that yes, in fact, you are responsible, accountable, the guarantor of your brothers. And so it becomes a thing in life, and we think about this for ourselves for this week for Coaching with the Bible, is in what situations, in what places, in what spaces are we a guarantor? Again, not that we control the outcome. We don't necessarily control the outcome, really, ever. But in what spaces are we Judah? where not only people sort of count on us, but that they rely on us, but they can have trust and faith and belief in us that we're there, that we own it, that we guarantee it, that we'll be present, that we'll show up, that we'll have your back. Right? That's a term that people have been throwing around, President of the United States thrown around a little bit. America will always have your back. I love that. But in our own personal relationships, what does that mean? Where does that apply? How does that work? In our business environments, what are we the guarantor of? An opportunity, success, wealth. Perhaps at the minimum level of it, we have to think about the idea of being a guarantor for the other person's opportunity going forward. Certainly, if they're successful, we'll be guaranteeing their taxes, but at least that they'll have taxes to pay. But in the space of what we try to appreciate as a leader, as an owner, as a partner, as a parent, as a friend, is the guarantee of presence, is the guarantee of reliance, of being present and showing up for other people when they need them. More than that, I'm not sure we can do, but less than that, I'm sure we can't do less than that. It's what puts us in a position to be Judah in our own lives. It's what puts us in a position to be members of a community, of a tribe, of a family, of a team, when we can minimally guarantee, again, not the result, guarantee showing up and putting our best effort forward, our best face forward. It's all really ultimately that we can rely on. And so to finish it out, I'll finish it out again with the quote from Clint Eastwood. If you want a guarantee in life, buy a toaster. Have a great week. Hopefully this week will bring great blessing and great joy to us and have the opportunity to bring back all the remaining hostages.